Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another laid-back game dev stream. Sorry if my voice sounds a little rough today. For some reason it is a little rough. Let's hope I can make it through this without losing it. As we've seen previously, it can actually happen. Let's figure out the audio settings here. Hello, Nolram. Yes, we are doing audio today. Ain't that fun? Can you hear me? Speaking of audio, can you hear me all right? Despite my rough voice. Let's click a few of the buttons here to make sure everything is as it should be. I can hear you good. Well, thank you. Thank you for the report. Let's get the graphic out of the way. And we get back to our lovely Visual Studio Code here. So, what is happening? Well, I'll be doing some audio improvements. Audio engine improvements. Lately, not really anything that would, actually give us any new sort of fancy features or anything like that. Jesus, I have many of these open. Let's see if we can run the game here. Where's my launch? On my launch settings. See, this is the problem when I'm working on like a few different machines. I'm kind of switching between them, and this is the one that I do my streaming on because I can yap and talk here without annoying the rest of the people in my family. But it's not always the machine I've just worked on previously, so apologize for the somewhat chaotic start of this sometimes. Alright, we can run the game. Excellent. Voice sounds as delightfully Finnish as always. Well, I'm glad someone appreciates my Finnishness and my sharp S's. Alright. So, do we have audio in the game? Yes, we have audio in the game. That's cool. So, today we're gonna look at this guy, the Flying Scout. Let's come back to this guy a little bit. I'm probably gonna have to shut off the music in a bit here because we're gonna concentrate on the audio. If any of you have tried out this mod, I'm sure you've been very disappointed in the fact that this jet-powered Scout doesn't have a jet engine sound. Right. There's nothing there, and that makes it kind of lame. So we're gonna do something about that tonight. At least I'm gonna try. My audio design adventures don't always pan out, but let's try to do it this time around. This shouldn't be super tricky. So, for those of you who don't know, and also because we have quite a few new people on the channel these days, this is a mod for the game. You can already play around with this mod today if you want to. You can do that by joining the Discord, which allows you to download Pre-Alpha 2. And also on the Discord you'll find a link to this mod here, which should be mentioned, completely sort of breaks the campaign missions and all of that. But it's fun, and this game is supposed to be moddable after all. So this is sort of like my example mod. Indeed, the first mod that there is. And so this thing is loaded here. It's called Flying Scout. It's loaded here as a WebAssembly mod into the thing. And it basically adds a new type of vehicle, which is the standard Scout, but it comes with a jetpack, so you can fly it like this, or hover, perhaps I should say. And that's all fine. That's all fine. The code for this Scout mod is essentially all here. So we have, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, those are just build scripts. So 6 source code files making up the mod. And one kind of unfortunate thing with my audio engine has been that, like, the project that you are working on has been very sort of closed. So if we go here to Timbre, which is my audio engine / authoring tool, we can see that we have 2 projects here. We have Means, which is the game itself, and then we have Dev project. And if we open Means, at this point, let's just shut off the music here, so we can actually hear the sounds. Right, so you can perhaps, oh, that's gonna be super low. But let's go with the engine, so you can hear the audio. Perhaps might be a little low. Actually, I think it's perhaps just low in my headphones. I think I'm gonna bump up the volume. This should actually affect you guys as well. And then I can bump up my own headphones a little bit. And do let me know if the audio is like too loud or too faint or whatever. If you want me to up or down the volume for like the actual effects that we will be working with today, right? Anyway, we have all kinds of sound effects in here. These kinds of things. We don't actually have that many sounds in the game yet, but all of the sounds that we do have in the game are here in this project, right? And then when we export this project, so let's go to File and click Build. What actually happens here is that we produce something called a main project file. I can actually make this larger. Which is exported as means.timbre. This is sort of like the runtime file that the engine can read. You can see it's actually not very large. So all the sound effects and everything go into this, and then you have one or more sound banks. So we have a main.timbre bank, which is significantly larger. This is where all the like wave file data goes into, right? And then these are the 2 files that actually get shipped with the game. So if you have like here we have actually traction point pre-alpha 2. So these 2 guys go into this audio.bp4 file. This is what the game ships with, what the game reads from. Now, what if you made a mod to this game and you wanted to add a new sound effect? Like how can you do that? Since you only have this audio.bp4 file, and you don't have like this project file, how do you add new things into this? How do you add new things into this whole sort of whole, while still being able to refer to things in this project? And that is what I have been working on. So you can now do something called an additive project. So if you look at the project settings here, we have some settings like what stuff to hide here in the asset view, where to actually build the output for this project, and then we have some Reaper integration stuff here. But then we can have, this is a new thing that I've added this week. This is an additive project. Let's go into this in just a second. But basically it means that, like, okay, we can have the game audio Timbre project, And then we can add more stuff into it. And those things can come from anywhere. They can come from mods. I can even technically, although I probably don't want to do that, but I could technically even have multiple like timbre projects within the game itself. And so we should be able to use this system now to actually add new sounds to that mod. And I should add, and I should highlight here, that this is something that you will be able to do too. Just as soon as I release the first modding support for the game, which should happen in like, well, this year. Shouldn't be very far now. Basically the first playtest on Steam that I'm gonna put out. Nolan says, I'm amazed how Timbre seems to actually be somewhat standalone from the rest of the engine. Yeah, I guess it's not like more or less standalone than any of the other tools, right? Because all of the tools are standalone, right? You can run Nemo. Nemo also works on its sort of like own data. It just kind of knows a little bit about where other things are. So you can, for example, you can hook it into the Timbre. This reads from the actual .timbre file. And you can have some localization keys and things like this. So they sort of talk to each other, but all of them are essentially standalone. And you can just open, like if you made like open the material editor, it does ask you for the actual like project that you have, but you can just create a new project, and then you can just start creating a new material, dragging things to this. And then you can save it, on the desktop if you want to. Of course, it's not going to be used by the game if you do that. But yeah, they're basically standalone things. Timbre is perhaps a little more standalone in the sense that you can actually preview these things here, directly in the editor, like this. So in that sense, like even if you don't have the game, or even if you're not, even if you are not modding the game, you can actually make sounds with this thing. Right. I'm gonna put on the music again because this just feels so very sort of bare bones without anything. It's gonna be a little while before we do make any sounds actually happen. Right, so this is the main project that we're looking at here, and like I said, if we build this is the sort of main file that tells the game where everything is. So when we actually load that thing, you can see we can go to Timbre Sound Manager.h. This is sort of like the entry point to the audio system. We call load project on it, and we give it like a byte buffer and a size, and that is essentially like just the pointer to the data that is in this file, right? And so this is not something that you guys will get to actually call. We can actually see where it is called. It's called in the trampoline app. Load project is here. Trampoline app create client. So the trampoline is sort of like, it is a launcher for any Zig based game that you use bases to create, and Trampoline sort of expects there to be some audio, in the sense that you need to have, currently it's just hard-coded, audio/means.timbre is the path to this guy here, right? You don't get to call that because the Trampoline is hard-coded to actually load this thing. What you do get to call, though, is this load additive project. It does just exactly takes the same sort of data in, because you will also be producing a Timbre file if you are making like a mod and then audio for that mod. something like that. And so, I think maybe without further ado, let's go ahead and create a new project here, and we'll create a project for the Flying Scout. So we go here to mods, we have Flying Scout. Oh, Noldrum wrote some more. Let's see. As mean that Timbre essentially just exports some data that can be interpreted by some runtime. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Nemo works actually kind of like the same in that regard. But yeah, I do get your point. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I mean, I've been toying with the idea. What if I actually just like made it so that you can, you know, if you made some fancy sounds with this, if you could actually just like export it to a WAV file or something, because this is actually kind of powerful. I know how to make certain sounds with this that I don't actually know how to make them with something like, you know, Reaper or whatever. What does Nemo do again? Nemo is the sort of fact database and mission scripting thing. So the missions are here. Like the overall mission flow is here. You can see all the dialogue is here. And then we have these things called read global variable. It's not what you think it is. It's not like code global variables. These are sort of like fact dictionaries. And so we have a global variable set, and you can create any number of these. And so for the elevator global variable set, you have a bunch of booleans. Here, for example, if you've been wondering, if you played the demo mission and you've been wondering, okay, how do we actually count, you know, how many of those power cells we have in the receptacles? At which point does the elevator actually power on? Well, we have an integer here in this global variable set for that. And then this mission script here, which just does all kinds of things, and it's sort of like spaghetti a little bit. This goes in and reads and writes to this thing, and from this you can actually, if I remember how to do it, you can actually point to data in Timbre. But yeah, let's not do that now. Let's not derail this completely. Let's create a new project, and let's do it here in the Flying Scout, you know, work files. So this is essentially sort of like my I don't know, preferred format for making a mod, right? You have a build folder. This is where the output for your mod goes. So this is like I said, this is a WebAssembly mod. It can have some data, and then it needs to have a JSON file. This JSON file is just tells the game a little bit about the mod. You can put your own name there and like a URL and a description, this sort of thing. But this is the output. This is what we want to actually produce. So the logic goes into that file, and then the data goes into this file. So this BP4 file here, this is where we actually want to put our sound, right? Then we have code. So this is the code that we actually looked at here in Visual Studio Code. We have some more stuff here. We have, for example, the entire Basis SDK, which you guys will also get access to for using the game engine essentially. And you have the for making sound, you have the Timbre stuff here. So you have like event instance, for example, is the actual instance of a sound or sound event, that sort of stuff. But the actual mods code is here. So we can see we have a single component, and we have like sort of like the convention is to have a components.zig, which is where you list all of your components like this. So if you have more than one component, you just add it here and then add it to this list, and then it gets sort of gets registered. Where's my timbre again? Oh, and then yeah, one more folder to look at. So we have build and we have code and then we have data. So the point of this is to create this BP4 file. We can see that this folder has the same name as that. And then we have these mystical double underscore files or folders here. These are sort of used by the asset converter. You shouldn't really ever mess with these unless you know what you're doing. Like if you want to invalidate the cache, you can just delete that and it will do it again. Then we have a batch file here which just produces the data for the mod. So we can see here resource pack flying scout underscore resources or res written, one resource pack generated successfully. So now we wrote that BP4 file. And here inside of this, any folder that is not like this double underscore folder will become a BP4 file. So inside of this, we can just put any data that we want the mod to have. So here we have the blueprint, we have some materials, we have some meshes. There's even some like Merlin effects here that I don't think I use. And here's the texture for the jetpack, right? And the actual jetpack mesh is here as well. Hello. That sort of stuff. So in here we can create another one of those timbre files and another bank. And we can do that now because we have a way in the game to actually load that stuff that we didn't used to have before. And so then we have another sort of convention here. This is actually not something that's hard-coded, but you can have an underscore work folder where you can just keep, work data. So for example, your timbre project can go there, and the game won't actually bundle like the project files with it when you package up your mod. And why is it underscore work? Well, because it's just what I've written here in this script. Ignore folders that are called underscore work. If you prefer something else, then you can configure it for yourself there using that pipeline script. But this is the folder where I propose we now create our timbre project. So let's call this just audio, and I'll copy this and place it here. So save the new project in here, and I'll call this Flying Scout, like so. So now we can see that timbre created a double underscore assets folder for us. There's nothing in it yet. And then we have the timbre project file. So now I'm going to open that. And here is our brand spanking new project. So now we need to actually make this an additive project so we can actually like bundle it with the game. Output folder, yeah, we should make that something. That's the main games audio folder. That's not where we want to go. So it's relative from this folder, or then it can also be absolute. So we're gonna go one step up and another step up, and this is where we want to actually place our output, right? So let's do something like this. Maybe it should be backslash, I don't know. I think both probably work. We're not going to use any Reaper stuff here, so I'm not even going to input anything here. And then if you hover your mouse over these question marks, it sort of tells you a little bit more about what you can do here. So the additive project identifier, this says that it needs to be unique among all loaded additive projects. Letters, numbers, and underscores only. So if you have a mod called Flying Scout, this should probably be called Flying Scout as well, right? Because the mod names also need to be unique, sort of like the unique identifier for the mod. But it can be essentially anything, as long as it is unique among all the mods or all the additive projects that are going to be loaded into the game, right? And then we need to give it the path to the main timbre or BP4 file. So if you've downloaded Traction Point, this is now pre-alpha 2 where this stuff doesn't work yet, but like basically you could give it the the path to this audio file where the main timbre file is, right? I'm not going to do that though, because I have the main timbre file here out in the open, so I'm just going to copy that path. And then I'm gonna plonk it in here. And now if we make some typo here and press OK, it's gonna say that hey, that doesn't actually exist. So it actually verifies that okay, now we are actually hooked to that project. And one way we can verify that is by going up here and verifying that we actually have a bunch of group buses. So these things were actually imported now from the main project. And the idea here is that, you know, if you make a piece of music, you should add it to the group bus that's called buses music. And if you add a piece of, you know, engine sound effects, which you could argue that the stuff we're gonna do today is, you should add it to the engine sound effects group bus, because then if you go to the main menu in the game and you adjust, you know, the engine sound effect volume, for example, your sound effect will be affected by that, right? But you don't have these normally. This list would be empty. It would have just the master. But we can see that we are sort of like linked into the main project like this. Right. So now if we build this, we should actually get a timbre file written for ourselves. Here we go. So this is now the path to this guy is what we can actually add to the mod. Hey, load this thing, and then all of a sudden we get a bunch of new sound effects that we can play around with. So that should be fun. Norman says nodes are just fun. Yeah, we're gonna get to nodes in just a second. I'm almost done with this with this setup here. Actually, I think we are basically done. So what I did before this stream was I went and got a couple of jet engine sound effects. I couldn't actually find exactly what I was looking for, but I found a couple that I think are pretty good. We're gonna see if we're gonna use both of them or just one. But this is one. Let's listen to it. So it's basically just like a slightly modulated like whine, kind of like what you would hear on like a commercial airliner or something. And then we have a higher version of that. And so my plan here, and let's see if it actually pans out, is that we'll use these two, or maybe one of them, and we're going to modulate even more. We're going to modulate with the thrust, the actual thrust of the jetpack, that sound, and then we're going to add some noise that we're actually going to be generating from timbre itself. So if we look at this flying scout thingy here. When you hold the up button, you apply thrust. You can see the thrust is just written there with like a debug text on the HUD. Maybe this arguably should have a nicer HUD as well, this mod, but hey, it's just a mod after all. Anyone can go and make this nicer. And you can see that like as long as I hold this, it will sort of rise until it reaches 1. That's like full thrust, and then if I let go of the button, it will slowly sort of decrease until it goes down to 0, and then I can hold it. And so if you want to like have just a little bit of thrust, you have to sort of flick it on and off like this. I mean, this can be made fancier. We can have some like analog controls of this thing, and I bet some of you will do that as the first thing when you get your hands on this. But for the time being, this is what we're gonna go with, and so we have thrust value that goes from 0 to 1, and so I think we should make a nice sort of sound effect according to that. And you can see those flames, those thruster flames, being sort of tied to that thrust value, so that when we are at 1, they are sort of fully out and they get sort of smaller when the thrust is smaller, as you would expect, right? So we're gonna make just one sound, even though we have 2 of them here. I think we're just gonna make one sound, and we're gonna move that sound around with this vehicle to keep it simple for now. But I think that should, if we tie it to the thrust value, at least in my head, it's gonna sound fun. So let's get to work with that. Right after I get a glass of water. So 1 second. All right. I am back, and let's start by bringing these 2 WAV files into the project. So we can do that just by going into here into the assets folder and copying those guys in. And if we click this refresh assets, we get those guys there. Now, I don't know which one of those we're actually going to end up using. Maybe we'll go with the high one first. So let's just, oh, right, we need to create an event here for ourselves. Hey Jake, welcome to the stream. Some audio stuff today, so no music right now. Sounds very sort of weird and lonely to not have any background music. But we're gonna make some sounds in just a second. So one important thing now with this, if we create a new event here, we'll call this, I don't know, thruster or something like this. So normally, if you create, a folder here, we'll call this like sounds, and we can drag this into the sounds folder like this. This hierarchy here sort of depends or determines the path for your sounds that you're actually going to be using to refer to these sounds in the game. So if you copy the path, we can see that it sits under sounds and it's called thruster. But we get this weird flying scout in square brackets here. And this is important because this is a new thing that that is only used with these additive projects. So normally you can't have, you know, if I try to put a square bracket here, like this, it says that like thruster square bracket is not a valid object name. So you can't have those, but since this is an additive project, it actually prepends the actual path with the ID for the additive project. So that's, you know, this thing that we created. And because of this becomes like a globally unique path in the game. So the game knows, it's the sounds/thruster that's found in the Flying Scout mod. It's not the sounds/thruster that's found in the main data. If that makes sense. We can keep the sound folder, that doesn't really matter. But all right, so now if we have this, we can start by maybe using this high whine wave file. And let's start as always by just using an onStart node. And whoops, that's not good. And then play audio. And if we drag this in here, we get this kind of annoying whine thing here. I want to make sure that it's looping, because otherwise it will just play through once, and then we'll have weird sounding things later on. All right. So this is sort of like one layer of this sound that I was thinking we would design here. And now we want to control this somehow, right? So how do we do that? Well, we do that with a parameter. So let's create a parameter. And let's call it thrust, I guess. Thrust, and it's a float, first of all. Its initial value is 0. It goes between 0 and 1. And we can look at those seek speeds a little later. I'll just make this a bit larger. So now we have thrust parameter here that we can play around with. And if we actually use that, set it to thrust, we can use that to drive the playback speed. And that's kind of what I was thinking we would use. Yeah, now we got some weird sounding. We don't want to like necessarily have it go all the way down to 0 though. Right, maybe just like the actual like car engine sound that we have, you know, it goes down to some sort of idling state. And then we can like bring it up from there. So let's put in like a curve, maybe. Curve is handy because like then we can actually you know, bend it, and we can. I think I'm gonna start with just a linear one though. And this thrust parameter is gonna drive just like a whole bunch of things. So let's put it here. We can add some other stuff in here below that. And then we plug this into the playback speed. And then we need to add. So the input value goes here on the x-axis from 0 to 1. And the output is the y-axis. So let's add maybe like what should I use there? Maybe like a 0.4 or something. And then 1 would be over there. We can tweak these. So this is exactly 0, and this would be 0.4. And then this one is 1 and 1, right? So when we are at 0 thrust, we do like playback speed 0.4, and then when we are at 1, we have playback speed 1. So now you can hear that even though the thrust is at 0, it's not completely silent. Yeah, this sounds a little annoying though. Let's Let's try out the second one, the low one. We can of course filter these guys if we want to. Yeah, that sounds nicer. Cool. And of course, someone can do just absolutely like pull this up and down very fast, which will probably sound kind of unnatural. Like this sort of thing. So what we can do is we can have like Zig speeds. So if we do ascending, let's do maybe. So this is how much per second. Let's make that 2. So that would mean that it takes 1. Maybe we'll make that 1, and then we'll make the descending 0.5, right? So now it rises faster. You can see this yellow line here is the actual like value that it seeks. Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good start. Let's go with this. So save the project. Let's add in some more layers here. And I was thinking we would use a noise, or maybe even a couple of noise layers for this. So let's do noise. And yeah, white noise is just like super harsh on the ear, so let's not even go. Let's just use brownish noise, which is like more sort of heavy on the bass tones there. These names, by the way, brownish and bluish, they come from the So Loud audio library that I'm using. I don't exactly know what the difference between a brownish and a brown noise is, but it is the brownish noise that comes with So Loud that I'm using. Right, if we mute this guy, we can just play this and we can see what it sounds like. Yeah, so it's kind of nasty. Nasty to listen to like that. And I don't think there's any point in actually plugging any playback speed into this thing. But what we can do instead is do a little bit of filtering on it. So let's do like let's do a low pass filter, which we kind of fiddle with as the thrust is increased, right? So currently you can have 4 filters plugged into any audio source, and they are applied sort of in order. So I think the low pass is probably pretty good as the first one there. Yeah, you can have this bi-quad resonant filter. It supports low pass, high pass, or band pass, and I think we are specifically going to want to have low pass here. So let's plug this, but let's not plug it directly into that. I think I'm going to probably modulate the frequency here. So that sits at like at 500. What does that sound like? Oh, that's the wet one. Oh. Yeah, there we go. Actually, if we plug it into the wet one, we can sort of hear it. Here it almost go away as the thrust is increased, but that's not what we want. We wanna modulate the frequency. And the frequency sits here at 500 by default. So let's work with that and see what we have. So let's put in like a remap parameter here, which just allows us to map this into some other range. So this is 500. So let's maybe go below and above that. So when the old min, or the old min is 0, so when the thrust is at 0, we want the value to be something else. So the new min would be like 300 maybe. And then 500 is the... Oh no, 500 was the original value. Let's make it 600. Alright, so we can hear like a... Whoa. We can hear a little bit of... Oh no, my mouse cursor went away. There we go. Yeah, I think this is a bug actually in Timbre. Let's just restart the thing. So like if you have this and you adjust this parameter here, the mouse cursor actually gets hidden. But then if you right click while you're doing that, it kind of stays hidden. I need to fix that. Anyway, so let's listen to this. Right, and we have just this layer on. Now this is muted. Yeah, that's starting to sound pretty nice actually. But I think we want some more power to this guy, and maybe we'll want some distortion. So let's do like a wave shaper filter, and I think we'll plug this as the last one. Might want to have some more filters here, but I'm gonna want to use these filters like sparingly, because they can be kind of heavy. So let's just reset these. I don't want to blow anyone's ears out here. The wave shaper filter is like, you know, you need to use it responsibly. It's gonna be just absolutely crazy. So let's keep wet as 1, but then just adjust the amount, and let's hook up the parameter there. So, okay, let's listen to this. Yeah, okay, let's not even. Let's put that down to like 0.7, and maybe. Starting to sound pretty nice. I think it kicks in a little too soon though. Let's try like 0.5. So now we don't get any distortion for the first half. Maybe even a bit sooner than or later, sorry, than that. Let's mute that one. I think this lower end should really almost completely go away when we are idling, right? Shouldn't really hear it basically at all. Well, very little at these lower thrust values. So let's get another one of these curves going. I'm just gonna remove that. I like this low one much better than the higher one. The higher one was just super whiny. So let's use this and plug this into the volume, but let's not quite have it linear. Well, we can listen to what it sounds like. Yeah. And then it sort of comes in linearly, but I think it should almost completely go away. So let's put that one to like 0.1. So now it's almost silent, but then it should come in sooner than that. So let's bend this guy. Let's bend it like this. Nope, not that. Sorry about that. That would be 1, 1. But this guy, let's bend it like this so that we get this nice curve here. Yeah, so now it goes away almost completely. Yeah. Sound pretty interesting, but it kind of annoys me a little bit because you can sort of hear very clearly that these are kind of like two different sounds. So what if we do another noise that we sort of put in between those two, because we have this one which is using a low pass filter, so it's going to be, you know, it's going to be very low. And then we have this top one which is just this whine. Let's put another one in between those two. So maybe move these guys down like this. And of course we can add some annotations here. Let's see, annotation. Whoop. So this is like turbine whine. We don't need any details. Turbine whine is right here, and then this is the, I don't know, low rumble or something. All of them and move them down, and then in between them we have another one. Let's do another noise. I'm going to do another noise. I'm going to do maybe let's do a pink noise. White noise is just like way too harsh. I don't want to use white noise. Also don't want to blow out your ears. Let's do a pink noise. Plug that in there. And then, how do we want to do this? I don't have a solo button. I only have a mute button. I should have a solo button as well for these guys. I don't have that, unfortunately. Yeah, so the pink noise is kind of harsh already without any sort of filtering. It's not really usable unless you know, specifically want to do, you know, noise from a TV or something. Let's do another bi-quadrant resonant filter, and let's put this in band pass mode. So high pass is lets frequencies above a certain, you know, threshold pass. Low pass is obviously the other way around, and band pass, at least as far as I know it, kind of lets frequencies around like a certain frequency pass. I'm sure many of you are kind of more DSP folk than me, but that's essentially how I have understood it. So we're gonna have to modulate the volume. Maybe this time around we can just use a remap. Let's try with a remap for the volume. I'll just plug that in there, and so maybe we'll just let's try a bit like 25 or something. So when this is when the thrust is at a quarter, then this noise is going to start kick in. And it just sounds like this. If we unplug that. Get a much more sort of harsh version of that, because we're only passing frequencies through around 500. Okay, and that's not very interesting. It doesn't really sound like anything is accelerating or anything. So let's plug this in here. So 500 is a pretty low frequency, right? We're hovering around 500 here, 300 to 600. So we're gonna have to go way higher than that. Let's maybe start at 500 and then we go to maybe 2000. So let's see what that, or rather listen to what that sounds like. I'm gonna unplug this. I don't think it makes any sense to have this at 0 if we had that other at 0.25. So at, you know, at idle it is the same. Yeah. This could maybe work. Alright, let's unmute these other guys. First we have the top one. And then the bottom one. It's starting to come together, but I'm thinking we will probably want to have a little bit of distortion on that one as well. Let's copy this. We don't even necessarily need to modulate this anyway. Let's just put it in here at the end. Hey Arcane, welcome. Let's put that in at the end, and I'm gonna mute these other guys for the time being. Again, I need a solo button desperately. And what should we put here as the amount? Let's try with something very small. That can't be heard at all. You can hear that the volume increases actually quite a lot when we do like wave shaping. So maybe let's lower it from here and then add a little bit more shaping here. Oh, that's a bit much. So now without that we can almost not hear it at all. Yeah, that's maybe a little rough. We are making a jet engine sound for the Flying Scout. So this is what the full sound sounds like. I think I wanna probably bring this down a little bit. Like let's do 1500. Did this thing actually make it better or worse? I can't tell. Well, something like this. I think we're gonna have to probably test it out in the game. I'm just gonna delete that. I don't think it really worked. You're not really gonna you know, run the engines at full thrust for very long, usually, because you'll just be flying out of the level. So sometimes you make a sound that you think it sounds good. Then you play it in the game and it just sounds super annoying because it's being used in a way that's like not quite what you had in mind, right? I think this time around it might actually be the other way around. I have a feeling. It sounds kind of annoying when you just have it playing like this, but I think it is going to be so very kind of... It's going to be like going up and down all the time that it might just work. Let's see. So, I think I'm going to leave it at this for now. So now then, the actual way of getting this into the game. How would we do that? That is the next thing. Let's put on a little bit of smooth jazz to let our ears rest. And we'll do a little bit of implementation here. Reminds me of the floating engine sound from that War Cars PS1 game. Well, it is a flying car of sorts that we're making, so I think it probably fits right in then. Okay, so what do we do now then? Now we have this set up. Let's assign this guy to group bus. So selected event. We assign this to engine sound effects. And you can see here that it says M in parentheses. That means it is in the main project. The main project's engine sound effects bus is what we've assigned this to, and that just means that if you go into the audio menu in the game and you adjust the sound effects volume, that is this bus. Or well, that is what it means in this particular case. Of course, it depends entirely on what you have actually hooked up those things to. So we will build this. I'm just going to make sure, right? We have the output folder there, and we already got here. If we go back to, where was it? It was here. So Flying Scout Res, we already got this timbre file previously when we built. So now if we build this, it should take almost no time. No, it did not. Now we have a Flying Scout timbre file. We also have a bank, which is called main. You can't actually assign events to banks yet in Timbre. That's a feature that I've planned to add, but I just don't have a UI for it yet here. The engine runtime actually fully supports that, but currently it just always creates a bank called main. So main.timbre bank, and it puts it next to this guy. Because it's 7 megs, so it's actually quite large. What we might want to do here is just take this low loop. It was a low loop, right? Yes. And just make this og vorbis like this. Save this and rebuild. And now it's 175k. Yeah, so that noise loop is actually kind of large when it's in a WAV file format. Let's see what it looks like then in the game. I actually don't know. I think actually, yeah, convert assets to runtime format when previewing. You can toggle it here, so let's just quickly turn off the music again and preview this here. yeah, you can sort of feel it a little bit, or at least I can. If I click the play button here, it takes like half a second or something because it's actually converting that wave file to OGG. Right? Toggle that off. It just starts immediately. Yeah. Anyway, sounds good. Let's again build that, and we should be good. We should be good to go. Maybe just add one of these annotations here. What do we call this? Like mid noise or something. I don't know. Something like that. Okay, so anyway, we have our two files here. We have flying-scout.tamber, we have main tamber bank. So we somehow need to actually tell the system, hey, load this as an additive project, and this is the bank that you're gonna want to use. Jake asks, is it expensive to compute all the filters and such during the game? It can be expensive, yeah. It can be expensive depending on what you do. You are also using SoLoud, if I'm not mistaken, right? You're also using SoLoud to do audio. So some of these layers or filters are definitely expensive. We have them here, filter. I think like the free verb filter is probably the most expensive, right? This guy. And of course you can just profile this. Yeah, process here. So I think this guy is like the most expensive, basically this update function here. You know, I can just put like a basis profile function in here, and now it would tell me. I don't think I'm using it currently anywhere. And maybe I am actually. I don't remember. So yeah, they can become expensive, like anything, but I don't think, like, most of these aren't actually very expensive. Like this wave shaper filter, if I remember correctly, isn't really expensive at all. This is essentially the whole thing. That's the logic for the wave shaper filter, so it's actually not very expensive. I don't think there's not really even any expensive math in here. That's just a global instance of freeverb. Yeah, that can be handy. I don't exactly know what you mean by global though. Like, do you put it on the bus or? Like I don't really use SoLoud directly. I use it through my own abstractions. So I have something called a group bus, but this gives us the SoLoud bus. I think this is just a number, isn't it? Oh, that's actually like a bus handle. That's a number, unsigned int. And so you can put a filter on a bus instance essentially. Oh, they're not even really instanced. I don't remember how this works anymore. But yeah, you could get the group bus and then put a filter on that one. I use an aux send. Okay, yeah. I don't really use any sends. I might have some use for sends in some cases, but I haven't really ever gotten into using them. I think Solid has something. It might call them something slightly different, yeah, but like conceptually the same as Ascend. Okay. Anyway, let's get those guys into the project now. Then. So basically, what we want to do is here's a mod controller. The mod controller is essentially sort of like the main function or main object for your mod. You can see that it's a struct. This is called by the engine when it is created. Post init is called when this guy has a stable pointer. So if you want to set up any sort of callbacks or anything like that, that requires, you know, this self pointer here to be stable, you can do that here in post init. And then dinit is called when the mod goes away. And then we have some more hooks here that I've actually just commented out because we don't use those, but we do use on app startup. And yeah, mods in Basis can be either WASM or WebAssembly modules, or they can be native DLL libraries. And the library type, this is a sort of like an implementation detail a little bit, but like if you have a library, sorry, a native dynamic library, a DLL basically, you can run the client and the server sort of in the same loaded DLL instance, because the client and the server might be running on different threads, and that's just completely fine with DLLs. With WebAssembly, it's a little more complicated. WebAssembly does support threading, especially with WASI threads, but I don't use WASI at all. I try to stay away from that because it's sort of like some runtimes support it well, others don't support it all that well. So I don't do any threading. Instead, what I do is, if we're running this as a WebAssembly module, we just run two of them, run two modules that are completely independent. One is the client, one is the server. So here we're checking basically like, okay, are we in a dynamic library or are we on a WebAssembly client? Both of these are essentially like when the app starts up on the player's client. This is where we can register things to happen. So here is where we are going to be loading our new Timbre project, right? So now that we have these files here, let's build the data. And we can see that we got two new files added. Flying Scout res / main.tambrebank. So Flying Scout res again is the name of this folder here, which becomes the BP4 file. So if we go to the actual place where the mod is installed, it's in app data /trampoline, and in the final game it is in app data /traction point, and then mods, and then Flying Scout. It's this guy here. Flying Scout res BP4 1952. Yeah, actually I have this batch file, as you can see here. Here's a commented commented outline which puts it in build, and then there's another line which just puts it directly into this folder that we just looked at, which is in app data, right? So we wrote directly to that BP4 file. That is the file that now contains our sound data. And inside of that resource pack we have two files. We have Tambrebank and we have the Timbre file itself. Let's copy that out of there. That's not how we copy. That is how we copy. So just put it here so I don't have to remember it. And then we have the other one, which is that one, that's the bank. So those two. And of course these are not really file paths, they're resource paths. So whether or not you're running off the asset server or you're running off the pack files or whatever, the game can always find the data at these paths, right? So it's like a virtual file system essentially. All right. So how do we load? An additive project? Well, we looked previously at the fact that like the trampoline is actually the thing that loads these guys. The trampoline app has the load project call here, which is hard coded for you. You don't need to do anything. The trampoline is also the place which has the load additive project in Zig. So you do trampoline.timbre utilities and load additive project. We need to give it the client, and we can do that. We can do self.context.getClient. Pass it the client like that. Project resource path, well, that would be this guy. Flying Scout res, the timbre file. And then we have the sound bank data. What is sound bank data? Well, it looks like this. So it wants a sound bank name, and it wants a sound bank resource path. And if we look at the timbre again, it says here, building sound bank main. So main is the name of the sound bank. That's just hard coded for you. You don't get to choose that currently. Later on, you probably will get to choose that, but not currently. So this will be main, and that would be the path to the which is basically that thing there, right? So let's do maybe shorten that a little bit. Let's do const sb data is trampoline timbre utils soundbank data, just so we can use a little shorter name here, and then do sound banks sb data. Actually, that's ugly. I want it to be a big S, large capital S, since it's a type. And SB data. Is it this how you do it? I don't remember anymore. Or is it actually something like that? Name? No. I think it should just be this, and then it should be like soundbank name or something, but it doesn't want to show it to me, which makes me. Or is it dot soundbank name and then dot? I think this should actually work. Should it just be that then? Nice, I don't remember how to code. Let's see if this works. So I'm just giving them as empty now, right? And then we give the sound banks. So that becomes like an array, and then we need to take the address of that to get a slice out of that. If we have any Zig experts in the chat, you can shout at me. Yeah, that's not right. That's why CLS goes like, what are you doing? Oh, right. We also need to do a try there, because it might return an error. Okay, that actually does work. I don't know then why it doesn't want to show it to me. Strange. Anyway, so this timbre is passed here as the project resource path. We don't need that anymore. And then the other thing we need is just to tell it this, like so. So if this looks complicated, it's really not. If you had another sound bank, some other, and then this would be some other, or something like that, and you can have any number of those, and they are all registered with this additive project that is found here. But we only have one, so that would be that. So now we're loading the actual additive project, and now we should be able to access this guy. So event Flying Scout sounds thruster. Oh, it's called thruster. That's not good. Let's fix that. Thruster, right? So now if we build this again, we get the 2 files built for us, and we also need to remember to run that batch script, this one, which takes these 2 files that we wrote and packages them into that BP4 file, which is what the scout expects. So here, 2000, yeah, that's right now, so we just wrote it. Good. And now we need to write this other file, this WASM file as well, to actually use that. So how do we do that then? Well, the nice thing now is that now that we have loaded this thing, it should just be available at that path. The path being this thing here, event flying scout sounds thruster. Actually, it gets copy pasted to the clipboard immediately. So let's not do anything here. I'm just gonna paste it in here as a comment, right? I messed up. Yeah, my microphone keeps getting in the way, so I don't see what I'm doing, and apparently I'm just bad at typing when I don't see the keyboard. But yeah, this is the string at which we can now find that thruster, and since we have this flying scout in square brackets here, like that could be an event that is part of the main project, but this square bracket business tells both us as the user of this as well as the system that, oh, okay, this is actually in the additive project called Flying Scout. So now we can just use the main timbre functionality to go like, hey, we want this guy. So how do we then play this thing? And I moved over a bit of stuff from the main game over to means library. So means is the main game project. If we look at this is the actual code for the game. We can see here that this means project contains a whole bunch of code. This is actually quite a large project. But then we have means lib, which is a library that the game uses for all kinds of things. And it is also available to mods, and I'm moving more and more stuff over here all the time. So this is sort of like almost like a source available portion of the game, right? That you get to use as well when you're writing mods. And so here we have sound effect. This is really just a small wrapper around a timbre event description and a timbre event instance. And then we also have sound transform calculator. So if we want the thing to move around, we want to get nice Doppler effects, things like this. We can use this to just calculate the velocities and everything, and apply it to the sound, so it moves around in 3D space. So we can use these two. They're found in means lib, and we can access means lib. In fact, it seems like we already have it imported here. Yeah, we use the inputs from means lib here already, so it should be good. So let's do that. Let's add one of those. Let's do like SFX thruster. Thruster. It's difficult to write apparently. Means lib sound effect. And then the other is the SFX transform calculator. Is means lib sound transform calculator, and we need to give it the context. The context being this guy here, avatar tracking component. You can see that it's the context because it's called context. Just give that there. You might be wondering, why does it need the context? Well, it needs to know basically what kind of component this is. This is an avatar tracking component. That's why it has a context of type avatar tracking component. And based on that, it can actually figure out the transform for us semi-automatically. It can get the interpolated transform, or it can get the uninterpolated transform, depending on if we call this from tick or not. Well, anyway, you need to tell the type there. What kind of component are you actually using this from? Right. And I think that should work. That should build. We can just, yeah. You can use this dot and then these curly braces to just initialize everything to default values. And then we need to do a few things. So in the dinit, first of all, if we are on the client, actually we can probably just, let's have a look here. Dinit release instance. Yeah, we can just call it directly, even on the server. Self dot sfx thruster and dinit. So if it is initialized, we just deinitialize it here. This will of course only happen on the client. Right, and then on object created, here we are actually like, if we're not in the editor and we are on the client, we figure out some thrust flame things here, the visuals. And so this happens only on the client. This is where we can hook that up, that sound effect as well. So let's do that. Let's do sfx thruster init, and we give it the event path. So this is now the event path that we copied up here. I'm just going to copy that away from there. So we tell Timbre which event are you actually referring to. Well, it is this thing here. Yep. Like so. And I think we can actually already start it here, right? So we can do self.sfx thruster instantiate 3D, autopause true, yeah, that's fine. And position, well, we need to give it a position, so we can do const pos is self context transform get position. Tell it where in the world are we. Linear velocity, these inline things in VS Code sometimes trick me up. Linear velocity is just 0. We are instantiating this as a vehicle that is standing still, right? So instantiate 3D actually returns an event instance pointer. That event instance pointer can be actually started. So we can do instance, let's do like sfx instance, something like this. And then sfx instance we can actually call start on. We can also do, any other setup here. Because this sound effect, this means-lib sound effect, this just wraps some Timbre objects for us. And this sfx instance, this is an actual instance of that playing sound, right? And we can start it here, we can stop it, we can move it around, blah blah blah, all of that kind of stuff. Then we have that that transform calculator thing, and I think this one needs to be needs to be reset. Yes, so it has some data, has a lerp factor. So if we use interpolation, this will actually properly put the sound where it is in the interpolated, using the interpolated transform as position and velocity. And you can use this to apply to either like an event instance, which is this thing that we got out of this thing, or you can just apply it directly to the sound effect. So we'll be doing that later. For now though, we're just going to be resetting it, and we're going to reset it at the position as well. Like so. Rightio, and then we don't need to do anything there, but we need to update it, of course. And we need to update like two different things of it. We need to update the thrust, which is this parameter here, this thrust parameter, or this one, which actually modulates the sound, and then of course we need to update the transform for it, right? So let's do one first. Let's do the transform maybe first. So we can do SFX transform calculator update or tick. So this thing can be called from either update or tick. Update is the variable rate update, and tick is the fixed rate update. We are now in update rather than tick, so we do self context. We pass it the delta time, and then we need to answer, are we called from tick or not? Well, no, we're not called from tick, we're called from update. So that's that, and then after that we can use SFX transform calculator to apply two sound effects. So self, oh, it actually wants a pointer, does it? Sound effects, yes, it's a pointer. So address of self dot SFX thruster. So now we've updated where in the world it is and how it is moving, and now we need to apply that thrust value. So if we go and have a look here, you can either set a parameter like this. You need to give it a parameter ID or name, essentially, or we can do it with by index, right? Set parameter by index, and then you give it the value. Well, here we know that this is the one and only parameter we have, so the index is necessarily 0. So let's just use that. And I think I saw already that, yeah, we have the thrust value here already. We use it for rendering that text which shows us the actual thrust, so that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Just pass it in here like so. Let's just do like only one param in the event, so just use index 0 without any lookup. You can do a lookup based on like names, for example, SFX thruster, event description. You can do get parameter index, for example, and then you give it the name. So this would be thrust, like this. That would give you the U32 that you need to actually then give it here. So you can do sort of like the lookup once at startup and then just use the indices. That's basically the idea. Okay. I wonder if that actually is all we need. So we do have a pre-tick function here, or method. Pre-tick is where we do the actual like physics of the whole flying thing. So we do apply main engine thrust is there. We add some forces, left engine position world and right engine position world, and then we do a little bit of stabilizing forces so that we don't fly around like a balloon that someone has left the air out of. When you get to messing around with this yourself, you can comment this stuff out and see how well you can fly with the thing. It's without any sort of stabilizing forces. It's super difficult to do anything basically. So these just try to basically like keep it somewhat level. But yeah, I don't think we need to do anything there regarding the sound. I think we're basically done with this. Hey Shidlo1, welcome to the stream. Cool, I think we can try this out. So the only thing we need to do is we need to do Zig build, and this should also be set up now to build directly into this mod folder. Yes, we can see 2014. That is now in finished time, so that should be good. Let me just go to the game, Visual Studio, and we launch. And let's hope this works. I'm gonna Let's shut off the music now so we can have a listen to what this actually sounds like. Oh. Okay. I already know something is wrong. And you can hear it here because no matter how far away we flew or fly from that vehicle, you can hear the sound equally loudly. So what I've forgotten to do here is I've actually forgotten to set this to be a 3D event. So yeah, you can mark it as is 3D, then there's some attenuation values there. Is it like, you know, linear, inverse, exponential, or whatever, like how the volume essentially like fades away when you get further away from the object. And some Doppler stuff. Let's just make it 3D and rebuild this thing. And then we need to package it together with, if I can remember which one of these, yeah, it's this one. Build data. And now, let's have a look-see. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so let's fly closer to it. Yeah, yeah. Now we can hear it. You can hear the 3D being correct and everything. Hey. All right, doesn't that sound more impressive already? And because we have those seek speeds there, we can actually hear that, like, even though the thrust goes down pretty quickly and the thrust text, this text here goes away. There's one. You can hear that it actually takes a little bit of time for the sound effect to sort of calm down. I think I kind of like it, but if you don't like that sort of thing, you basically just come here and either just remove this descend per second seek speed, or just make it quicker from over there. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to probably listen to this like with a few different, you know, few different kinds of speakers. I'm using pretty well balanced studio headphones right now, so it sounds pretty good with this. But I'm probably gonna have to listen to it with like speakers and stuff to tweak it. I think I'm pretty happy with this sound for now, at least. What do you guys think? Does this sound completely horrible at your end? Or is it all good? Smooth landing. Let's go to the demo level where there's a little bit more space to actually fly around. Oh, and actually I wanna try something here. I wanna try if this sounds like a proper aircraft. If we have like a flyby, right? If we put a scout here. All right, and then we put the camera somewhere here maybe, and then we drive with this guy. So let's do a little bit of flyby action here. So when we get close, yeah, it's really fun with the Doppler effect. It just sounds like a proper aircraft is going past you. How much editors do you have? Well, I only saw Basis editor, not Timbre editor. Well, Timbre is, yeah, so Timbre is sort of like, I mean, you ain't seen nothing yet. I have many more. Timbre is the audio editor, and it's arguably sort of like part of Basis. Timbre is the editor that I use to make audio sound effects for the game, sort of like Fmod. Yeah. I'm gonna try to land without going off that. Yeah, look at that. Without going off the map. So yeah, I don't know how good of a sound effect this is, like, all things considered, but I think it's a pretty good starting point. Something that I can then iterate on. It's also maybe a little bit loud. Should we maybe just like turn down the overall volume for the... Let's put the volume down to something like 0.6 maybe. Yeah, you can adjust the volume in just a number of ways. You can adjust the individual volume here for, you know, well, we're driving it here actually, but you can adjust it here or drive it with a pin. You can adjust it here, and then of course you can just adjust the sort of runtime volume, and finally you can even adjust the bus volume that it belongs to. Yeah, I think this is probably a bit more balanced. It's a pretty loud effect after all. I wonder if we should make some sort of like track for this vehicle, like an actual level that you can fly through some obstacles or something. Oh. Bonk. Sounds really good. Did you consider add some distortion particles or shader effect type thing on the other end of the jet engine? Yeah, I've kind of gone back and forth with that a little bit. I think I could probably do distortion, do like a pretty good distortion effect these days. I can use the same system that you know this one uses, the gravity crane. This is a fairly recent addition to the renderer that I can do like displacement effects like this, and there might be worth actually investigating if I could do some sort of displacement, you know, that will sort of like come off this thing here. You can see the the shader just keeps going there, even though the game is paused. But some sort of like displacement effect that like makes the, you know, kind of looks like heat is coming off this or something. That might be kind of cool. Then again, you know, this is just a mod. this is just a mod, so I'm not gonna spend like a whole bunch of time. This mod is mostly here to just like make me, you know, it kind of acts as like a test bed for all kinds of things. And tonight, that testing has been additive timbre project. So basically, the ability to add sounds to mods. And yeah, it works. Hey Cactus, welcome back. What's happening? But yeah, what if we would add a small little level, or at least the beginning of a level, to this mod itself? So when you download this mod, not only do you get a flying car, but you also get a nice sandbox level to fly that car in, right? How about that? Should we do that still? At the same time, we get to test if levels in mods actually work. I think they should. I don't think there should be anything special about mods, but I don't think I've ever tried that. So let's maybe do that still in this stream, because this kind of turned out well, and I'm kind of feel like I'm on a roll here. So let's keep going for a little bit further, and add some funky little you know, time trial circuit or something for ourselves with that. Let's put on some music again here. Actually, I'll put up a quick break visual. I'll go take a quick pee break, and then when I come back, we'll do a little fun little level for the flying car. So I'll be back in like a few minutes. Alrighty then. We are back. So, while I was away, I was thinking a little bit about what we might want to do. So, let's get Milton running here. So, I was thinking something like this. What if we make a very simple level? Just basically like a flat plane like this. Like so. And then on this plane we have some sort of, you know, towers or something. And those towers have some sort of like ring thing that you have to, you know, fly through. Then you have a couple of these guys. Just thinking about something that can be done kind of easily and quickly. And then, you know, you have to start, and then you have to fly through these things, and then land again or something like this. Now remember, you can't actually control your car while in the air. I guess it should technically be like this, and then we should take a break there, and then we should continue like this, and then something like this, and whoop, like this, and then that way. Something like that. Now you can't actually control the vehicle in the air, so you have to sort of like land in between and then, you know, gather some speed and then try to run to fly through those things. And then we'll actually put some triggers there to, you know, determine if you did it or not. That sort of thing. How about that? Let's try to make that happen. This is completely unplanned. I don't know if this is gonna end up in disaster or not, but it's gonna be something. So let's call this something like map rings or something. Maybe we'll just put some rings in the sky that you have to fly through, something like that. So let's actually open up maybe the level that we were just in, which, if I remember correctly, is called crane development. Yes, it's this one. I'm gonna save this level as basis means mods flying scout data map rings, and then we'll just call this map rings like this. The given level file path is outside of the work folder of the current project. Yes, we are sure. This is something that we're gonna have to basically convert ourselves, right? Normally when I build the game, the asset server takes care of converting the data for me, but since we are outside of the work folder for the game, basically what we have to do instead is run this batch file. You know, this thing here does the same thing. So now if we get rid of, well, let's get rid of basically everything, all of that. Bye-bye. Maybe not the sky sphere, the level settings can be there. The script we can get rid of, and the terrain can also be there. Yeah. What if the terrain should be larger though? Let's resize the terrain, right? Height map size. Actually, we can probably just set the quad size to larger. Now we have a doubly large terrain. Let's see. I want to make a map editor and wonder what editor like this should have, and what data should I store, and what data does the basis level hold? Okay. Yeah, the basis level file is really just a JSON file. So we can see here that this is the sort of main file for, this is the thing that you open with the level editor. And it looks like this. Granted, we don't have a lot of stuff in the level currently. But basically we say where in the world the camera is, so that when you resume your editing, you come back to the same place. Some object selection groups. Doesn't really matter here. This is some old crap. Sunlight is basically still stored at like the root level of the level file here. This is going away eventually when I just can be arsed to remove it and move it into an actual object. Like most things in the level now, like the fog, for example, you can turn the fog on and off here. You can set the color of the fog, things like this. These are just stored in actual objects these days. But you can see here that we have this really old window called level settings, which just stores like a hard-coded number of things. Those should really just go away. They're just kind of pointless to have there these days. But yeah, most of these things are actually just stored in objects. So we have a number of layers. We have 3 layers currently. We have the base layer, which is always there. That's this guy here. Then we have dynamic objects and layer number 3. I don't know what these are. Let's actually get rid of them. We can bring them back later if we want to. That was from the old map. Then we have 3 objects here on the layer. Objects always go on layers in this editor, and then you can also nest them under each other if you want to, like this. But the point is that like layers only get loaded if you make them auto load. So you can see that this is now if we would load this layer, nothing would be created. Actually, let's see what happens if I do that. I don't think I've necessarily ever done that. Yeah, we just have an empty. I'm actually moving the camera now, but you can't see that because there's literally nothing in the level, just the clear color. But if we make this auto load, then we should get the sky and the terrain at least, right? Hey, here we are, and we're under the terrain. So here's the terrain, and these guys are just JSON files, just like everything else. So you have the terrain. It has some components. The components are also JSON. We have a sky sphere, which actually doesn't have any components, or actually it does have components. Yeah, it has a sky component and an editor component, but it doesn't have any properties set to anything except their default values, so that they don't show up here. And then we have a level setting. I think this fog enabled thing was actually written here just because I just toggled it on and off. Not this guy. So, you know, if I we have the sun is rendered there. If I toggle off the sun and then I save the level, you can see that, oh, now we actually have a value here. Render sun value false. And if I turn it back on and save again, now it's true. So this thing didn't used to be here because it was at its default value, but yeah, that's basically how it works. But yeah, I mean, occasionally someone asks me, hey, how should I do this? How should I do that? How should I build a level editor? How should I make a renderer? It's sort of a slightly too large question to be answered, you know, definitely in a setting like this. The best I can really tell you is that, like, start with what you know you're gonna want to have, right? If you know you're gonna want to have a terrain, maybe, or you're gonna want to have static objects, boxes, spheres, whatever, figure out how to add those into a format. And you don't even need to have a level editor, as long as you have some sort of file that you can store your objects, you know, with a position and a rotation. Then you can just edit this file by hand and make your game actually, you know, load that. And then little by little you add more until you actually have. Oh, can I? Yes, I can definitely lower the music volume. Sorry, I didn't read. Let's lower it. yeah, then little by little you add more kind of stuff that you know you're gonna want to have, and while at the same time making sure that your game can actually load it. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have a bunch of editors for things that you can't actually, you know, use. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on this. Let's add a car here. So I'm gonna add actually a flying scout here directly into the level. This level is part of the mod, so we can, like, without any issues, we can just add one of these guys here. That's absolutely fine. And we can script this a little bit. So let's do message game started. Actually, do we have that header here still with the standard? I used to have like a standard standard message header, but I don't think I have it anymore. Which meant that you could actually, like, you had a constant for this. You didn't have to use the string there, but doesn't really matter. Set single player avatar. Set single player avatar, and just do game self get game object like this. So now when we run the game, yay, we are this guy and we can fly around. Okay, cool. Okay, nice. So let's put some of those rings in the sky and then let's have the player drive through them. How should we do that? Should we just maybe do them with Blender sync? How about that? I'm gonna rotate that 45 degrees, like so. Then let's open up a Blender instance. Blender takes like ages to load these days. I don't know what's up with that. It's very slow. Very slow. Okay, and you know, just for a little bit of scale, I'm gonna add some trees in here just to make it a bit easier on myself to see. Let's add some trees over there, and also probably another one of those flying scouts. Just we have the scale there. I can then just remove that later on, like so. And then we take this. Actually, let's add a layer for this. So we have these rings, and this would be ring 1. That's the first thing you're gonna want to fly through. Physics type, sure. Try mesh. Default is fine. And include a bit of surroundings. Let's do 200. It's actually quite a large amount, but whatever. Maybe we can bring it down to 150. Then we go into Blender. Here we go, and I haven't done Blender stuff in ages. How is this gonna go? I don't know. So, right, this is supposed to be a ring, so let's do like, let's delete the box, add in a cylinder. We rotate the cylinder probably on, is it X? And then around Z, 45. And then we do radius like, is that a good size for the ring? I think it's a pretty good size for the ring. I think that's a pretty good size for the ring. Let's make it a bit sort of longer though, right? Something like that. And then we'll take that one, and we'll take that one, and we'll just remove those. Remove the faces. And then we'll do a bridge edge loops. And there's our beautiful ring. We can do auto smooth on it. And should we be fancy and actually add some like supports to this guy? How about that? Might make a little more, you know, sense to whoever is watching this. Like, what is that? Just add some supports to it. So let's do rotate Z. Actually, maybe we can scale it on like X, and then scale it on Y. Not that much though. Scale it on X, like so, and then we move it down. Grab XX, so move it in local space. Maybe just cut it up, right? We don't want that centerpiece. That's a face, and then that's a face. Let's turn on the face orientation mode so we can actually see things get red if we're seeing the insides of them, right? Something like this. Rami Kollo asks, hi, do you need a good understanding of physics to do your work? It helps. It helps for sure, yeah. Like physics is a pretty wide topic though, right? And I'm not sure you need more than like a basic understanding of like mechanics, classical mechanics. 180, just put them on the other side as well. So, you know, things like mass, inertia, impulses, forces, that sort of thing is pretty good. Physics is nice in the sense that like you can experiment quite a lot with it and like iteratively. You know, I'm talking about the cases now where you actually have, like me, you have a physics engine of some kind. Like I use PhysX, for example. Or we might want to actually UV, just do a smart UV project on that guy, right? Like so. Rip. There we go. Now we have some more sane things here. So if you know like those kinds of basics, I think it should be quite good. Oh, what happened? What did I do? Oh no! What did I do? Oh no! I did something bad. Oh no! I did something bad. Oh no! I just looked at the log there and I hadn't saved in a while. My editor crashed. Yeah. Oh, stupid. Well, you know what we can do? We can salvage this. I'm gonna salvage this thing. Luckily, we actually did send it back to the editor, because when that happens, it actually goes through the file system. I don't know what I did there. The editor tends to be kind of stable, but it actually just died there on me, and I don't want to look it up now. So let's do it some other time. Yeah, so what we can do now is we can do a little bit of Sherlock Holming here, and we can go to temp, blip, and here we can see We can open that one, see what that contains. I don't think that necessarily contains... Actually, it contains exactly what we want. Yay. So that's fine. I'm going to save this on the desktop, because that file is something that's going to be overwritten. So yeah, Blender Sync Target is fine. Sorry about the crash. Yeah, it's absolutely no problem. These things happen. These things happen. You need to have just have a little bit of humor. Oh, server failed to start. Okay, I think what is happening here is that we are blocking the UDP connection. That's also fine. Just need to shut Blender down and start it again. Oh, still fails to start. That's not good. Oh, is it because we still have that instance running? Yeah, we still have the instance running. Okay, it doesn't matter then. Doesn't matter. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So, let's go back to the editor here. Include surroundings. Sure, I think 150. That's fine. Let's edit this in Blender. And Blender brings it into the scene like this again. Because this is a brand new file. That's fine. We're going to do append desktop Blender Sync Target object Blender Sync Target, and here we go. Here's our thing. So we just let's see now. We do. Yeah, actually, what I will do is I will actually delete that guy. I will rename this guy. I will rotate this 45 degrees. I will do a smart UV project just in case, and then I will finish editing. We should have it. There we go. Now we're back to where we were. Okay. Save your work, kids. It's important. It's important, you know. And then we had some trees here next to the bloop. There's some trees. You know, trees just give us a little bit of, you know, some sort of sense of scale, right? If you have some trees there, you know that okay, that's a pretty big ring. If you don't have, you know, it could look like this, and then you know, this could be a person. A person could be like that big, or you know, or that big, and you have no idea how big something is. Hello, person. So you might be wondering why I have those trees there. Well, that's just to give it a little bit of scale, so you can see what's going on. Cool. Let's add another ring. Spruce collection should actually go just there, I think. Actually, maybe just there. In fact, what I typically do is I add a layer called ENV for environment, and then just bring stuff into that. So let's do that. Cool. And now let's see if we can duplicate this. This is something I don't do like very often, and we actually get an output here. Duplicate a quick mesh object. No, the duplicate object will receive the same mesh data that was most recently written to disk. If the objects don't match, make sure the level is saved before duplicating the objects. Yeah, that's fine. So now we got another one, and if we open this in Blender now, we can edit this guy and make it a bit taller, right? Something like this. That might actually be very difficult. Let's move it a little bit down. I'm gonna have just these two here. I'm gonna see if I can fly through those. All right. So Smart UV project once again. Finish editing. Let's see if we can fly through those. Should be pretty easy, but you never know. Play. And then, of course, we can add some yeah, this is super easy. Then we can add some triggers to those. So it actually, like, you know, triggers when this this kind of stuff. You need to aim pretty well before you start flying. Yeah, that works. All right. We can of course have some stuff on the ground as well in our little our little circuit here. Okay, cool. I think I want some like nice sound effect when you drive through that. How about that? Should we go have a look online if we can find some sound effects? Go to SoundSnap here and see what do we have. Classic coin. Which one would be good? Oh Jesus! Yeah, many coins here. Yeah, maybe this one is good. It just, you know, without being super annoying, it kind of tells you when you've gone through that. Let's download that guy. And yeah, we can actually... Absolutely, that's exactly where we want to, because it goes into the Flying Scout Work Audio Assets folder. So that's good. Let's get that, and then we go back to Timbre. And just click refresh here, and here we have the thing. Oh, Jesus. It's very, very, very long. Let's rename that maybe slightly. So many folders open. That's not the right one. We want to go here and work and audio and assets. I'm just going to delete the meta file and let it recreate it. So we just do like, I don't know, power up or whatever. Name doesn't really matter here. And refresh this. We get a power up. Let's create a new event. This one is not going to be 3D. This one is just going to be 2D, so we don't have to mess with that at all. Just bring the power up in here, and we'll do on start and play. The way I actually bring these nodes into the node graph could be a little easier. Currently, you just have to like type it there and then drag them. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's just leave it as it is because I don't exactly know how I want to change it, so that's fine. What do we want to call this? You know, checkpoint or something, right? Checkpoint. And what do we assign it to? Maybe just sound effects, SFX, like that. That's good. And how big is that thing? 587 kilobytes, so that's probably fine. We can just leave it as a WAV file. Save ourselves some processing power when actually you know, playing it back. So that's cool. We have this event now. Let's build the data for the mod. So we go back here to data and run the batch file again. There we go. There should be no new files, but of course the contents has changed. There should be no new files for anything. But what we can now do, if we go to the editor, is we add a trigger. And we can make it a sphere, maybe. Should we make it a sphere? Is that a capsule? Alright, I don't have debug rendering for capsules. Maybe sphere is okay. It's sort of like an approximation of the thing, but it's probably fine. Let's use a sphere. A little bit larger still, like that. Another way to do that, it's kind of poking through a little bit though. I'm sort of trying to think about what I want here, because like a box is of course another option, but a box is kind of tricky to represent this as a box, right? 10, 12, 12. That's a box. It's like poking through a little bit, so that's not optimal. But maybe if we do 10 and 10, and then duplicate that and make another one that we rotate like this. So now we have 2 of them. I think that's probably fine. I don't think you will be really, you know, flying through this without hitting either of those. So we can have a trigger area here, and we put that trigger area under the ring number 1, and then we put trigger and trigger 2 under the trigger area. Isn't that how it works? I don't remember. How does a trigger area work? Let's have a look at the code quickly. Trigger area. Right, okay, so you need to call increase hit count, decrease hit count, and has object hit. Yeah, that's a little complex for this simple thing. Let's not mess with that, because I'm just gonna want to do this very quickly. So let's just have one of these guys, and we can have it as maybe 11, 11, and then we'll just leave it at that. That's fine. And then we'll do another one. So we'll actually duplicate that guy, move it under ring 2, and then move the trigger there. Something like that, right? And then when this, you know, when you fly through this thing, we want that new fancy sound effect to actually play. So we have a few ways of doing that. Let's see. Here we have a sound, and we can probably put. Right, I need to restart the back end here. So let's do that quickly. Let's do unload engine. There we go. And then we reload the engine. Right. Hello. Reload engine. Error creating swap chain. Okay, that's not good. The reason I need to reload the backend there is that we made changes to the mod, and again it is sitting outside of the work folder root, so nothing gets like hot updated essentially. But now we have it loaded, we should be able to just give it this checkpoint path here, right? Oh no, that's not good. That's not good. We want that one. There we go. Yeah. So now we can play the sound here from the actual editor. We can see that it works. That's cool. I'm not sure that is the correct type though. We have a scripted timbre event. This one is not scripted. We don't have a script there at all. Okay, but we have one of them here. So let's put the sound there again, and it just plays. Okay, good. So let's just make it so that we have Can put this under the rings as well. And we have effectively done everything incorrectly here. This should be, you know, something, and then this should be called rings, and then this should be called E and V. And then we move that to the rings, and we call this checkpoint sound. And then if we send a message to the checkpoint sound, we can just call it anything, play. Play is good. Then this would play. Play event. Boom. That's all we need. We can take those away. It just needs to listen to the play event. So then, you know, if an object enters, how do we do this? Self is single player avatar. If the object is the single player avatar, basically like if it is you playing this thing, then we send a message, and the receiver is level objects rings checkpoint sound, and the message is play. I hope you see where I'm going with this, and then we do the same thing for the other trigger. The position of this object doesn't really matter because it's not a 3D sound. It can sit there. It can sit essentially anywhere. Let's move it to the world origin maybe, which is apparently somewhere over there. So let's play this. Now we should get a nice sound when we fly through those rings there. Isn't that fun? And of course we can hook this up to some, like, you know, timers and HUD events and everything. Everything the script can refer to. And even things it can't refer to, because we can just write some actual Zig code in the mod that handles that sort of stuff. But yeah, okay. So that's fun. Should we maybe give some other color to these guys? So over on the material, just throw like a blockout material on them. Make them like blue maybe. Maybe blue is good. I think blue is probably good. Just paste it there. Okay. So that would be that. What do we do with the? What do we do next with the actual? Like, it would be pretty cool to have a little bit of timing logic here. I think I'll probably want to do that eventually. But before we get that far, though, I should probably have just some sort of like actual level going. So let's continue with that for now. I'm gonna add maybe, let's say, what do we do? Let's add another ring. Let's add this ring to the ground, like this. So that's the third one, right? And we can shape the terrain a little bit here. Why not? For good measure. Let's flatten some of this stuff. And then maybe we'll add the fourth ring. Let's add it here. Oh, I want both of those. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got an error there, and the error is just that we need to actually write this data to disk before we can duplicate it, and now we can actually do it. Yeah, it's completely fair. And have these triggers just be called triggers. They don't need to be called trigger 2. Like so. Oh, that's still over there though. Now it's in the correct place. Almost. Maybe make this like super tall, right? Something like that maybe. And maybe we should extend the legs down a little bit. Oh. Yeah, see, this is the problem when you're... Let's cancel that edit and just do it again. You're moving from one project to another, and then the key commands are completely different here, right? Alright, so we put that all the way down to the floor. And that text is a little annoying. We can get rid of it from here. Bye-bye. And then maybe we want to do like some sort of almost like ramp that you're supposed to kind of like land on after this one, right? Let's do a level here. Level operation. It's a little tall actually. Let's move it down a little bit. Up. Need to record the height there. Like so. And now we can do now we can use a carver to make a nice ramp for us. So let's do like maybe 100. 100 and 1 and 30. That's a pretty good ramp. Like this. 30 is a bit wide. Let's bring it down a little bit. And the carver is, the specialty of the carver is that we can actually use this to like shape the terrain. When you know roughly what you want, you just do carve, and then you can do extrude. Carve a bit more. Carve a bit more. Like that, right? And then we can just, I don't know, move it on the ground. We don't need it. Might need it later. This is a bit harsh, so let's kind of melt it away a little bit. A little bit of melting going on. And then we'll add the next ring there, right? So duplicate and move. Let's see if I can I manage to actually move them both at the same time. This time around. Yeah, let's make this a little tricky. Let's do like you have to come down the slope, but then you actually have to, you know, at the end you have to like fly a little bit. I actually get quite a bit of speed here, I bet. So we'll just do immediately. We do this, and then we. All right, we have the same thing again. We need to save this level, and then now we can copy the next one, and then we move it. Nope. Okay. Apparently not. Yeah, copying and pasting quick mesh is a little fiddly. That's something you like typically do a whole lot. Yeah, that doesn't seem to work. Let's take that one. We can duplicate this, yes. Now we have it. Alright, so we need to make this a little trickier, I think. We need to put it like basically there, so that like if you just fly through this one and then you land, then you're gonna have a little bit of an issue coming through that one, I think. Maybe, or maybe not. Not exactly sure. In fact, I don't know. Maybe it's not gonna be tricky at all. But I had another idea. Let's make this even more interesting. I'm gonna continue this slope just into the ground. Not sure if this is actually gonna work if we are sitting actually at the lowest point. But let's see. Carve. Now we can go deeper. Clearly, we can clearly go deeper. So let's go deeper then. And then we can angle it up the other way and continue this way. Okay, what does this look like? It looks kind of interesting and funky. Kind of interesting and funky. Let's move it a bit further away, maybe, so we don't get that weird pit there in the bottom. That's nicer. Okay. Just move that away, and then we put this guy with all of these child objects maybe there. Save. And do one more. And that one we put maybe there. So you have to come down this slope and then here, and then sort of manage your thrust. And then this is gonna be tricky. This is gonna be tricky. It's gonna be super tricky to do, but we'll see. Maybe it can be done. I think we're gonna have to probably make this a little bit easier, this one, but I will see. See what happens. Yeah, let's move this underground. Yeah, something like this. I don't know. Let's see if we can actually like fly this now. I think we're gonna probably run off the edge of the map there. So let's put some sort of stopper in place. I'm just gonna put a primitive geometry object here. Actually, we can put a let's put a primitive geometry object there. Let's not add like a whole bunch of meshes. That's not actually part of this mod. We have a few. We have some trees and stuff, but still. Size. So this would be, I don't know, 100, 100, and 1. And then just rotate it. So there's a nice little stopper. We want it to be physics boxer. Yes. Okay. Let's see if we can play this little circuit of ours. Oh, and I'm failing on the first freaking ring. Okay. Let's do that again. Luckily we don't have any timings yet. Okay. Jesus, this is actually really difficult because I'm just gonna restart this. Because you need to sort of angle yourself, because you can't actually control your angle while in the air. Alright, there we go. Alright, nice. And then we come down and take this one. Yeah, it's a bit loud maybe, that sound, but we can fix it. Okay, So now we need to jump up there and then come down the mountain there. Let's see if we can do that. Can we do that? Well, I guess that counts. Oh no! Oh no, I'm falling down. Alright, and I got stuck. Let's see if can I actually like back up there. So like. Yeah. Nice. And now this is gonna be super tricky. We'll see. I need to play a little bit with the terrain LOD distances. You can see it's pretty harsh cutoffs there, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter for this. All right. I'm gonna fly and then manage our throttle. Oh, almost. Almost. Let's see. Can we actually change the volume here for this guy? Not sure. Set. Yeah, no, I don't think we can do that. Let's bring the volume down for that guy a little bit, all the way in timbre. So just volume like 0.8 maybe. Still a bit loud. Yeah, that's probably better. Like so, and then we can actually mess with the terrain a little bit. So we can see here that okay, we get some really low LOD levels there. Let's see here, high LOD. Or actually we can probably just set this down to no scale down. There we go. So now we just get the high LODs everywhere. That's probably fine. Because we have these really heavy sort of sharp cutouts here, and they kind of don't really look all that good if we're gonna start loading that stuff. Okay. There was something else I was going to do. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, the shadow distance. Set that to like 400 maybe. Like move those out a little bit. Oh, that needs to be okay. So let's make that 500, 150. 80 and 50, and that should give us shadows for quite a long while, actually, quite a long distance. See if we can actually fly through this now. Always sort of misjudge how tall that is and how much thrust you actually need to make it up there. Like you shouldn't get too high a speed here, I think. Give yourself sort of like enough time to get some altitude. I mean, this is essentially, you know, 3D Flappy Birds, right? This is 3D Flappy Birds. This flying mechanic. Oh no! Ah! Oh no! Oh no! Yeah, it's Flappy Bird mechanics in the sense that like once you are in the air, you only have control over your height, or your altitude. You can't control anything but your altitude. And so it is a very similar sort of Flappy Bird situation where okay, let's have some thrust there. Yeah. Nice. I made it through the circuit. Ain't that cool? Okay, so let's just make sure this actually runs in the game, right? We haven't really run it in the game yet. We've only run it through the editor. So if we export this level, it should go into the mod, right? So it should go into here, map rings, and yeah, we have the bin level, binary level, which you can see is quite a bit larger than the actual work file, because this contains all the like height maps for the terrain and these meshes and everything. Normally that terrain is in here, and the meshes are these other files. But yeah, this is the one that the game can then actually play. So I'm just gonna shut this down completely. I can shut down Blender as well, and then we'll build the data. And we can see that, okay, we got a new file added. Resource Flying Scout res/maprings/maplings.bin level added. That's nice. So now we should just be able to run the game completely normally. Well, first of all, we can have a look here at the BP4 file. You can see now it's actually quite a bit larger. Like, it compresses pretty well. You know, we're down from 8 megs for just that terrain down to like 1.6. So the height map for the terrain compresses really well when it's like mostly flat. But anyway, we got new stuff put in there, and now we can just run the game. And I probably actually want to go to, yeah, I want to go directly to the main menu here. So let's just take this thing out. Now everything there is actually contained in the mod. So since we have this loaded, we do get, look at that, Flying Scout res map rings. Now we can load it. So we are now running the game of the asset server, but we could just run the game of back files. Everything that we created here, this level and these new sounds that we created, everything comes from the mod, and it's all stuff that you know you could potentially add yourselves if you were making a mod for this. So the modding system is finally starting to come together kind of nicely, I would say. All right, that's way too fast. Way too fast. All right, Flappy Bird, Flappy Car. Oh. Can you actually drive around that like some sort of hamster in a hamster wheel? If you spawn, we can spawn just a normal scout here, right? Can you actually like drive around this thing? All right, we're hitting the trigger there, right? Let's get some speed and let's see if we can drive. No. We need more speed for that, unfortunately. Bonk. sometimes you just get like... No! No! I was just about to say that sometimes you just get like lucky and it's super easy to get up there, but then I failed at the very end. As Clarkson would say, power, yes. Indeed. Okay, let's do that again. Do that again. Probably need some sort of rails there on the top of this thing. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, for the hamster wheel, absolutely. Okay, let's see if I will actually... I have too much speed. I have too much speed. No. Okay, you know what? We're gonna do one more thing. I was just reminded of that when this thing was just spinning on the ground there. I was reminded of a thing that I should really do for this vehicle, which has to do with what we did in the last stream. So in the last stream, we made it so that you can replace components in an object type, and that's actually needed for adding, or at least, well, for like easily adding collisions to these jet engines. So currently you can do this. You can just drive here, and like the jet engine will just go through that pillar there, right? The actual car collides with the pillar, but the jet engine doesn't, because there's been no easy way to actually add collisions to this new game object type when it's based on the Scout. Basically, the only way to add collisions without the system we made in the previous stream is to actually add a component, either C++ or Zig, and add the collisions like that. Well, that's kind of lame, just to have some collisions. You have to actually write code for that. But with the system that we added in the previous stream, Jesus, this is difficult. I don't know how I managed it once. Yeah, the system in the previous stream, you can actually completely replace the transform component of the base class. And we can add a new one, which has an additional collision shape. Sorry, I coughed there for a little bit. So that should allow us to add those shapes there without much issue at all. So let's do that still in this stream, and then maybe start thinking about ending the stream for today. We've been going for almost 3 hours after all still. So, how do we do that? How do we actually add that sort of thing? And the way I was thinking we could maybe do this is, if we go and have a look at the blueprints in the main game, and let's open a preview here so we can actually see what we're doing. So I don't remember what that SDF is there, or that box is there. I think that is probably the SDF thing. Yeah, it's clearly the SDF thing. So that's not the collision. The collision is actually this yellow. You can see like a very slight difference between the colors there. So these are the collisions for the actual Scout. So if we add one more, let's open this up, and we have a convex hull. We actually have the wheels. Then we have another convex hull. Yep, because this body is actually not convex, it's concave, right? Here we have a concave part, for example, so we need to actually use 2 convex hulls to describe the shape. But if we add one more, and it can be just a box, and we make it, I don't know, 3 wide, something like that, maybe 4. then we make it quite low. Not that low though, but maybe 0.3. And I think we'll move it a little backwards. The reason why I'm actually doing this here in the main object and not in the scout is that for mods, I bet there's gonna be some issues if we try to actually, you know, edit that stuff in the asset browser, because it's sitting outside of the work folder. So basically what I'm thinking here is that we'll create this. I think that looks pretty all right. Let's try with that. I'm gonna copy this, just click there, copy that to just a text file. And we can see here it's quite a lot of stuff here actually, but the new box that we added is this guy here. And so this is the new transform component that we actually added in here. And we have this override previous, which we can set to true. So if we go to here first of all and just basically like revert this stuff, right? We don't want this thing. We want it to be just the way it was in the main scout. But we still have that JSON data. Now we can go into the mod, which is here, and just open up the Flying Scout blueprint. And we can take this. Oh, I haven't had it in a different editor here, but that doesn't matter. Just take the entire transform and just add it here as the first component for the Flying Scout this time around. And so without the system we made last week, this would now spectacularly fail, because now we would have two transform components called transform. But now we can do override previous. We can just set that to true. So now we're overriding what is already in the base vehicle type with something else. Okay, that's good. So just build the BP4 file, and now we can try that again and see what happens. So load into our map rings, and let's turn on the. Hey, look at that. So it doesn't quite match. We can fiddle with it a little bit more still. But now we have a scout, which has, and those red shapes are the collisions, by the way. So now we have a normal scout which doesn't have any collisions, and we have a flying scout which has collisions here. And let's fix those up a little bit more. I don't want necessarily them to. Well, I guess we can actually make them kind of match these engines here. Why not? So we want to move them a bit forward. So that would be this one here. A bit forward, maybe 0.3. We want to make it quite a bit taller and a little bit wider. Something like that. Let's try that. And this unfortunately doesn't auto update, hot update, so we're gonna have to rebuild the data for this business. We can just use the crane development, just go directly into that level. So Flying Scout and regular Scout. And look at that, now we're actually kind of close. Yeah, now we're kind of close actually. So now if we try to actually just run this into something, then we actually have collisions, which is kind of nice, because it's been a little silly that we haven't had any collisions in those. Brunk and bonk. Coolio, guys. That's nice. We got basically everything we wanted to do. This was a good stream. I got a pretty solid jet engine sound out of this. Or what do you guys think? Is this annoying? I think it's actually pretty good. Right, you can actually land upside down now. I think the unstuckifier is probably going to help us here as well. Yep. But anyway, I got a pretty good engine sound out of this. We got a beginning of a silly little flying circuit level that we can continue working on. And it's actually part of the mod, so like now when you load the mod, not only do you get a vehicle with sound effects, you also get a level. And one of the things actually that I am going to be working on next is a proper sandbox map menu. So we go here into sandbox. Currently you don't really get anything, you just get a start button and you can go into the one and only sandbox level that we have here. Like an official sandbox level. But there's supposed to be a way to actually register more of these things, and I think that circuit level that we created should definitely be one of the sandbox levels. So you don't have to go through this menu anymore. Then you could go here and do it again. Let's see if I can manage this now that I have collisions on my jet engines. I bet I don't, but we'll see. The beginning is really easy. And then it just becomes kind of ridiculously difficult. But I'm hoping that this gives a little bit of a peek into what can actually be done with modding here, because we haven't actually modified anything in the base game in this stream, today's stream. This has all been done using just stuff that can be done in this with this modding system. Oh no. Oh no. I need those rails there. Alright, let's see if I can I fly through this now? Yeah. Okay, I think the way to actually do this is to stay at a pretty low speed, and then now this is a very low speed. Take it like this at least. I'm not gonna get points for the fastest laps or anything this way. Yay! And you know, all of this functionality is coming soon, and being made available to you guys if you want to mess with it. So I think there's quite a lot of potential here for just building fun things. And of course, for the like the gameplay code stuff that this exposes, you get basically the same SDKs that I do. Not all of the actual game code is exposed, of course, but you get a whole lot with that. You get essentially like the entire SDK for the game engine and all of these middlewares, things like Timbre, for example. You can just use Timbre directly in your mod, and then you get the means library, which just exposes a bunch of helpers and things like that are sort of built specifically for the game. So that should be pretty good. How hard would adding networking features for multiplayer be? Well, let's have a look. The thing is, the engine already kind of supports multiplayer. It is a little bugged it needs to be said. So let's see here. Can we run this without? Run this without. Yeah, we can run this without actually debugging anything. Okay, cool. So I need to do one thing here. Maybe as a fun little last thing. I know I've said it many times that we're going to do a fun little last thing, but this is going to be the funnest and littlest and lastest thing today. So let's go to UI and we'll go to menu, main menu. Oh, come on. Main menu UI. Here we go. Blip. Hide multiplayer button equals true. So, you know the meme where it's like add multiplayer. There's a function called add multiplayer. This is almost literally that, because it's like don't hide the multiplayer button. Now before you get super excited, now we get a multiplayer button here. We can click this and we get this super wonky looking menu, which looks nothing like the rest of the game. Let's bring down the size here a little bit. Yes, I'm going to start another instance. Thank you very much. Now, before you get excited about this, I'm not promising anything multiplayer related. There's no mention of multiplayer on the Steam page, and the game is most definitely not going to launch with multiplayer. But this is just for you guys who are hanging here in these streams. You get to see a little bit behind the scenes stuff. So let's join the game. Here we go. Now we have two players called player, and if we can find our ring stuff here, we can actually start the game. And there's a bunch of logic that's not going to work now, because the logic that we did in that script there, for example, none of the players got actually assigned that car, and that is because the script command that we set was specifically set single player avatar, if you remember. Oh, we can't actually do that here. This is the server. So the server can spawn another thing, right? And the server can set this as the avatar, right? And then we need to give this other player some avatar probably somehow, but I mean I'm just one guy anyway, so. But you can see. Actually, yeah, and you get the wrong trust. You get the wrong trust text there on that screen as well. So it's not as difficult as I bet you thought it was going to be. The answer is that the engine actually already supports multiplayer to a certain extent. I mean, this is me just playing around in a test level on the LAN. Can you just please get rid of that? There's something else funky going on here with that debug action menu there. So yeah, this is just me messing around on my own machine, on the loopback interface. I don't need to care about any network latencies. I don't need to care about packet loss, that sort of stuff, right? But you can see that this simulation actually already runs quite well. It's not an issue of having to start from the very beginning to do this sort of thing, and so I'm hoping to actually add multiplayer at some point, but I will not say a word about multiplayer for the initial release, because it is sort of it's a wishlist feature, shall we say. It's a custom built game engine built from scratch. Yeah, it is. It's built from scratch. You know, sort of like the thing you would you would consider built from scratch. Of course, I'm using like PhysX and I'm using AngelScript and I'm using all kinds of libraries and things like that. But yeah, it is built from scratch in that sense, yes. Bonk. It's actually kind of fun. I'm just playing here, you know, looking at the other screen. So yeah, the functionality is already here. We're already running a client-server model, even in single player. We have a client-server model going, and well, truth be told, I actually had like a race. I was playing this against one of my kids the other day, and we were just racing around the track. Wasn't flying or anything involved. We were just racing around the track, and it's a lot of fun. So it would be really fun to, you know, to be able to mess around. At least in this sandbox mode, just be able to mess around in multiplayer. But I'm not really sort of confident in it working well enough to actually like ship it. At least not in the first iteration of the game. So hopefully at some point. That's basically the plan right now. Hopefully at some point. There's some pretty interesting things here, though. Let's see if we can actually what we can do here. Right, so if you know if we spawn in a mother vehicle here, then we give this mother vehicle to the server player. And then what is the name of this guy? The name of it is that. I think we should be able to do is the game state dot set avatar, and that is the name, and number 2 would be the other player. There we go. So now this guy is you know is playing this thing, right? I'm just switching between these two now here. So, oh, something happened. Did it crash? Did it crash? It crashed apparently. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Something went wrong. But you can see it's still a work in progress, or shall I say it's highly unstable. Basically what I was trying to do was just like lift up this other vehicle, and you can actually like even though this is the vehicle for the other player, right? You can actually lift it up, and then you get this funky like camera where, you know, your friend is lifting you up here, and you have your camera like this. It's kind of funny actually. And then you can try to break free from the clutches of the crane. It won't let you. So yeah, the remote client crashed. The game is running here in this instance. So this is the guy running the server. So it's essentially the guy running the entire thing. If that makes sense. I need to switch to that when the vehicle moves slowly enough that it can be done. It's not super easy. There we go. Anyway, I think we're basically done for today. So thank you to everyone who came to hang out. This was a pretty good stream actually, pretty productive. I got a lot of stuff done. A lot of stuff actually worked out kind of nicely. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I'm confused here because the game continues even though we're in pause mode, but that is how it goes in multiplayer. So, like I usually say, if this sounds interesting, do go check out Traction Point on the Steam store. Add it to your wishlist. If you want to play an admittedly pretty old version of the game, then join the Discord. There is a link below, and there's also a link in the chat in the very beginning. That's also where you can find the link to the Steam page. If you join the Discord, you can play Pre-Alpha 2, a new pre-alpha, or shall we say Steam playtest is coming a bit later. But you can already play a version from this summer if you join the Discord. Do like and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, spread the word, do all the usual YouTube jazz. Thanks to everyone who came to hang out. Have an excellent continued evening or morning or whatever it is you're having, and see you next time.